Welcome to this presentation entitled dagongmei, an approach to feminine migration in contemporary China through literature. In this presentation, we are going to discuss some aspects such as when the phenomenon of dagongmei literature started, who the people involved are, what type of writing they do, the importance it has, the poetry they produce through some examples we will look at, and finally some conclusions on this phenomenon. Dagongmei literature initiates in the 80s with the development of industry in China. A lot of people from rural areas move to cities in order to get a job. The government established the hukou system in order to control the population and the movement of population that took place at the moment. It means that the infrastructures were not so good as these people expected. They have no guarantees of getting a house, of getting social security, things like that. So they have to live in the areas next to the fabrics, working between 10 to 12 hours a day in assembly lines, doing a very repetitive job. However, they remain there, and here we know who they are. They are men and women. In this case, we are going to refer to dagongmei, which are female workers, whose term comes from this. Dagong is a Cantonese term that means working for a boss. Mei is elder sister, so dagongmei was the term employed for working migrant women that work in Chinese factories. These women discovered the necessity to write their experience, to tell the world how they feel, how they work, what they do, what they expect from life. So firstly, they started writing poetry, and at present time we also find novels by these women. The main characteristics their poetry has is that it's not exactly a very popular poetry, not in China and outside either. The forms are very simple, no rhetorical figures, not many images. It's a very plain poetry, very clear, very straight ahead, I would say. That started being written in working areas using the materials available, mostly mobile phones, but that became for them a way of expressing what they felt. With relation to the authors, we don't know. We don't have many names. Most of these women are illiterate. They don't have studies, and it is very difficult to find very specific names, though there are a huge quantity of poetry written by dagongmei poets. Most of them are anonymous. We just found names like Chen Xiaochun, Wu Xia, or Pan Meiqian. The importance their work have is because it provides a good poetry both of the industrial era in China and also of the phenomenon of migration in 20th century. They also include references to the working conditions in fabrics and the way of living in these areas, and information which otherwise we could not have, because other people different from workers cannot get access to these places. So for us, it's a way of getting this information, why we know about their literature, about social conditions of these places and about the role women have in the fabrics. In this section we entitled Mirror of a Life, we have included some examples taken from their poems and fragments from their poems, where we find different types of information. In the first place, we get information on how they are. The profile of these women. They are mostly young women whose age used to be between 18 to 35 years old. They can be either single or married. Most of those who are married, their husband remains at home, and they are unqualified working force. Most of them learn how to work when they start in the fabrics because they have no previous preparation for the work they develop. So we have examples like this of a 37 years old female worker, where we find the way in which a job is offered and the way in which women find a job. This is a case of a woman who finds she's too old to work because the limit of age is 35 and she's 37 years old. The origin of these women used to be in rural areas of the south of China, and we have, for example, this fragment of a poem entitled A Migrant Child Worker from Liangshan, where we find that the protagonist, is just a 14 years old girl who is working with adult women in a fabric, and she's unable to follow the rhythm of the other workers. So she feels sad, she's not in the best place, and the poet denounced the fact that many children also work in these fabrics. Why they resist such hard conditions, why they remain in these places? Mostly to accomplish the dream, getting money for getting married, getting money for the family, for making a better living. All of them know the conditions are hard, but they remain there because they have a necessity to accomplish. For example, this is a fragment from a poem by Bushia entitled "You Have to Be Grateful for Working." It's a kind of recognition that they know where they are, they know how hard it is, but they want to go on because they need the money, they need the job for making a better life when they go back home. The same idea is in this other fragment entitled Rules, where the poetic voice recognize that they know they have to resist the rules of these places in order to stay there, no matter how hard they are. So they are conscious of the difficulties they confront, but they remain there because they need to work. It is important the use these women make of poetry as a way of expressing themselves is a masculine work. One of the best examples of this is in this poem by Chen Xiaochong entitled Language, because she makes evident she is speaking. She is the voice of many silent workers, many female silent workers who cannot express themselves in this masculine world because the fact of being women, they are under worse conditions than men. And they also refer to the working conditions in the fabric in their poetry. They speak of the journeys, the hard journeys they do, the mass factory work in poems like this one we have here, entitled, in this case, Cho Yanchun, with this narration of a woman who have lot of pains for being the whole day working, an idea we will find repeated in other poems like this one entitled Pain. It's an idea that the poet insists once and again they suffer a lot of pain for remaining the whole day in the same positions doing the same jobs one and again, and that produce also the sense of homesickness and also the lack of intimacy, because due to the hukou system they do not have a place of their own. They share rooms with many other people, and they live in the worst conditions. This is a case, for example, of a woman who speaks with sadness about what she left behind, about her house, her family, her city, or in this case, her village. And that's what I was referring before, that they are citizens with no rights, that most of the time finally ends in situations like alcohol or prostitution, which we find in poems like this one entitled Ho Chi Minh, a 23 years old woman who died of alcoholism. Or this other one is another poem entitled Middle-Aged Prostitutes, where the poet portrays a group of women who makes their living of prostitution because they no longer have the age to work in the fabrics. The conclusions on this phenomenon is that the economic necessity produces this mass migration, which has its origin in the rural and poorest areas of China, and many women suffer from the fact of being women and being workers in a war of men. So poetry is for them the only way they have to express their reality, to make the world know where they are, who they are, and how they feel. So poetry for them is the best way of expressing themselves. So for me, I consider this is a very important poetry, because it gives voice to feminine figures in China. So is this the way we have to know how Chinese women live in these places, how they feel, and how they transmit their ideas through literature. Thank you very much.